Okay, guys, so you should have read the birthmark by now and getting ready to answer your discussion questions. So remember, you're only doing 1 through 6. Below those 6 questions, you have some student questions, and I just wanted to briefly discuss some of those student questions with you to help you understand the birthmark a little bit better. So the first student question that I want to look at is, why did Almer marry Georgiana if he hated the birthmark so much? Why does he want to remove it now? Well, as the story starts off, we know that Almer never was bothered by her birthmark. He's sitting down one day and he just notices that she has this little birthmark on her face, and he becomes obsessed with the idea that he can remove it. So his obsession with science, with his ability to manipulate and create and have power over nature, that is what drives him to remove the birthmark. Up to this point, it had never actually bothered him before. So he's disturbed by it because he sees it as being not just an imperfection, but if we look at Almer's dream, he feels like this birthmark has somehow tied itself or is connected to her soul. So, and this is kind of ironic because when we think of things that are scientific, we don't think of things like someone having a soul per se. We think of things that can be proven with scientific method. But in his dream, he is so convinced that this birthmark is a part of her soul, that it's tarnishing her, and he has to save her by removing it. If Almer really loved Georgiana, why couldn't he look past her birthmark? Again, it's not that he didn't love her, it's that he loved science more. Is Almer inventing this elixir in a way to try to play God? That is one of the centralized themes of this short story, and Hawthorne's actually pretty notorious for this. He was definitely a hardcore Protestant. So he is definitely trying to manipulate and create and do things that originally we would say are in the hands of God. And he is trying to manipulate those things. And that's also very relevant to the end of the story. As far as symbolism goes in relationship to that, some critics say that Almer, it represents science. I mean, the story starts off saying that Almer is a man of science. So if Almer represents science, then Georgiana, in her perfection, again, guys, the story repeatedly says that she is perfect in every way except for this small birthmark, hand-shaped birthmark on her cheek. So she could possibly represent spirituality. And then Amenidab would represent our man of clay, would represent nature or mankind, human, at our most basic elements. Georgiana is possibly seen as weak by especially modern women readers, but we have to there's a two-way of looking at this. One, we have to realize the time frame that it was written in, and women, or a good woman, a good wife, would be submissive and obedient to her husband. She was very dependent upon him. So this vulnerability that Georgiana has toward Almer is partly a product of the time period that it's written in. Another possible interpretation to look at this is if we go back and from a Christian standpoint or a theological standpoint, if we go back and we look at Georgiana as being representative of spirituality or Christian theology, the only perfect being to ever walk the earth with Christian theology is Christ. Okay, and in the story we are repeatedly given that she is perfect except for this birthmark. So in some ways, if we look at how she is obedient, sacrificial there toward the end, very submissive, then that could be argued as showing those characteristics of like Christ-like type characteristics. As far as her death, there are more than one interpretation for that too. Again, guys, literature is always ambiguous. You'll hear me say this throughout the semester. You could take 10 different English classes with 10 different professors and get 10 different interpretations of the story, of any story really. So as far as how she really dies, there's two main ways of looking at this. One, we could look at it just as face value. She dies because she drinks this elixir and the elixir kills her. A second way of looking at it goes back with symbolism. So if we look at Almer as representing science and Georgiana as representing spirituality, and Amenhotep representing man at its most basic natural element, we have Almer, science, trying to change what is naturally given and as perfect as God is going to put on the earth. Once he removes that single piece of imperfection off of her face, regardless of how he did it, in this case it's with an elixir, once that flaw is gone, Georgiana is now perfect. She has no imperfection on her. The only perfect being, again, to walk the earth was Christ, so she cannot exist on the earthly plane anymore, and she transcends. So that's another possible way of interpreting the ending. And if you look at it that way, then that makes sense why Amenhotep is laughing at the end, nature laughing at the end, because science cannot manipulate or overcome what is meant to be, naturally meant to be. If Almer knew the potion would kill his wife, but still remove the birthmark, would he have given it to her anyway? With this question, my answer is probably yes. The reason I would say that is because he is so obsessed with science, first of all. Second of all, he has a dream, and dreams we usually look at as being our subconscious talking to us. So he has a dream, and in his dream, when he's trying to remove the birthmark, he continues cutting and cutting and cutting deeper and deeper and deeper, and he realizes that this birthmark is actually attached to her heart. And in his dream, he's willing to remove her heart. Can't live without a heart, which leads me to believe that he probably would have gone on with this experiment. On the other side of that question, who's responsible for Georgiana's death, and this is part of your discussion questions actually, Almer is partly responsible because he's the one that really needs it removed with his obsession. But Georgiana, we have all the evidence in the story to show us that Georgiana knows when she drinks that elixir that it's very possible that she is going to die. She even says that she would rather die by his hand and take the potion or the elixir than to continue seeing him shudder at her appearance. So in a lot of ways, that almost makes her, yes, sacrificial, but semi-responsible for her own death too. He does not force her to drink that potion. She drinks it of her own free will. So I know there's more student questions that are attached, but these were the ones that I felt were most important. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I'll be posting answers to your 6 discussion questions a little later on after they're due. Hope this discussion helped a little bit. Sorry for my voice. I'm losing it. I'll talk to you guys later.